Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Shift Show. I have been wanting to do a podcast for over 4 years, and guess what happened? I got in my own head and I talked myself out of reasons why I should start one. Life happened, the pandemic happened, everything happened, and I kept pushing what I wanted to have happen aside. And through the wonderful work, I'm going to say, of the universe nudging me, and of course, my vision board project, I decided that it is time. And now is so important because now is all we're ever promised. So I am, I don't want to say unprepared because I've been wanting this for 4 years, but I was having a chat with a friend today and they really just nailed it home and said, what are you waiting for? And when we picked it apart, it was really crappy, the things that the list of reasons I was giving to wait. I want to share my story. I have struggled for some time, and what I've come to realize is that so many other people are struggling too. And maybe you're going to want to share this. Maybe this is going to be something you're going to hold for yourself. I don't know where it's going to land or how it's going to land, but I know I need to do this. I read a quote by Lisa Nichols. Check her out. She's amazing. Very, very transformational person. And she said, to help others, you must stand on top of your story and not hide inside it. And it shook me to my core because I do show up and share, but I don't really stand on top of my story. So what I want to do with this very first episode is give you a reason to trust me. I want to give you a reason to hear who I am and want to come back for more and share, and maybe even find out some things about yourself or have the courage to stand up on top of your story. And that, at the end of the day, is really what I would love, is to see you just owning your authentic self. So again, my name is Denielle, and I absolutely just want to evolve into the best version of me. I do have some notes here. So because I'm going to be vulnerable, right? I want to grow. And in order to grow, they say you have to go out beyond your comfort zone. So I'm really going to get uncomfortable this evening. I'm going to share with you some things that I haven't shared before. And over the years, I have managed to share some pieces of me. I've shared some parts of my story, but I never really stood confidently on top of my story. I shared just enough to kind of hopefully softly inspire people, is how I want to put it. But honestly, the way I showed up was probably more of a release mechanism for me to feel like I was giving something versus just doing nothing. But today I want to actually just share my story with you and hope that it resonates. And so I just want to jump right into it. The past 2 years have been crazy. I never could have predicted it. If you had come to me and told me that what was about to unravel in the last 2 years, I never, ever would have believed you. I hit one of the lowest points I've ever hit. And if you know me, you know I'm an optimist. You know that I always see the positive side of things. But when shit happens at the speed of light and you have absolutely no control over the things that are happening, you're almost begging the universe to just stop, to make it stop, then there's an opportunity in there. There's a shift that happens. And it's a shift in perspective. It's a shift from the life that I knew into an opportunity for me to build a new life, and one that was really meant for me. Now, I remember really early on in the pandemic, my sister was kind of helping me try to work through what I was feeling. And I'll get to what I was feeling and going through. I'll get there for those of you that don't know my story. And my sister told me to listen to a podcast by Brene Brown. And I was like, which one? And she said, either one. They're all fantastic. So I remember thinking, I'm going to get two birds with one stone. I'll get on the treadmill and I'll listen to this, a Brene Brown podcast. I had read her book. So I thought, why not? So I quickly just kind of scrolled down through her guests, and I saw one there that said Glennon. I had never heard of the name Glennon before, and I thought, that's a pretty cool name. And then I saw Doyle. I thought of Alan Doyle from Great Big Sea. So I was like, this is super cool. I'll just pick Glennon Doyle. And so within 10 minutes, I was a complete mess. This stranger, Glennon Doyle, who was sharing her story, she talked about how she realized later in her life, married with 3 children, that she wasn't living her true life, and that she had met a woman named Abby. She had fallen in love. She'd realized that she wasn't broken. That was what shook me to my core. She simply just wasn't living her true life, the one that was intended to her. And I remember the emergency stop that's in the treadmill. I remember actually pulling that out because I just could not believe what I was hearing, because you could have taken this woman's script, you could have substituted a couple of names, and all of a sudden I had the words to tell my story. And that's the huge part for me. That's where my struggle was. It was where my numbness came from. It was my reason for going silent on social media for so long. So there was a lot of you that reached out during the pandemic and said, "Are you okay? Because we haven't heard from you." And I used to pop up and do Facebook lives and things like that, and I had stopped. And the reason why was because I could not articulate what was going on. I couldn't express how I was feeling because I had never felt it before. And I didn't know how to explain what was happening to me because I really didn't even know if what I felt was real. But then when I heard her telling her story, I didn't feel alone. And that's why I know it's time for me to stand on top of my story, because there is people out there and they're feeling very alone, especially during a pandemic where there's so many people not able to lean on the people that they normally would. Their support system is not in place. And that's where I want to come in, and I want to help you connect and feel connected if this is the message, for you. So, I think when I think back to that treadmill and that instant where I was like, I needed to hear this woman's story, it's almost like the universe knew I needed some guidance. I wasn't going to get there on my own. And so then Glennon's book, I started searching her and found out she had written this book, Untamed. And, I think it was when I read the book, it was the notion that maybe the way we think isn't truly the way we think, but maybe it's put there unknowingly by people who loved us, people, by society, by books we read as a children. I mean, Sweet Valley High, when I think back to what I was reading in those books, nothing against the Sweet Valley High fans, but because I was one of them, but it was what I was envisioning how I was supposed to be, right? When I started digging deep into the thoughts that I knew I was having, I started to really just think, are these even my thoughts, right? When I was a kid, I knew at a very young age that I was different. Now, I didn't attached different with sexuality. I just didn't feel like I fit in, and I couldn't explain how I didn't fit in. I knew I didn't want long curly hair like the girls. I wanted short hair like my dad, and a little cut down the middle so I could have like that Dukes of Hazzard haircut. That's what I wanted. I remember at 10, and this was a very pivotal moment for me. When I remembered this, I was told by a relative that I'll kind of bring it back. I was in my nan's kitchen, and my aunt was there, and she had these new clothes. And this is not the same. My aunt said something that she didn't realize she had said. And she had this bag of new clothes from my cousin. And my cousin was, she was, from St. John's, and I was from around the Bay. And she just had it all, in my opinion. She was pretty and thin and had all kinds of attention. And these clothes were for her. And I remember wanting those clothes for me. I wanted to go shopping. And I was told by that relative that if I lost weight and I took care of myself, then I could go shopping for pretty clothes. That's why my cousin had these new clothes, right? Because she was the nice size to buy the pretty clothes. I mean, when I say it, it hurts because I can't imagine. My kid is 9 and 6, and I can't imagine someone saying something like that. But she didn't know, and this is where Glennon's book was coming from. But what if the thoughts that you have were actually planted by people who didn't even know they planted them? And she pushes you to really just think your own thoughts, and that's what I found I had to do, because what was happening, something hurt me that day, and I didn't know what it was. I just wanted to go shopping, but now all of a sudden I could go shopping, but there was something I had to do in order to go shopping, and that was to look a certain way. So I knew I was different, but maybe it was the being different that hurt so much. That's how I kind of processed it in my 10-year-old head. And so maybe if I try to be like those people who get all the attention, then maybe it wouldn't hurt, right? Maybe next time I could go shopping. And that happened at 10. I told myself that if I wanted attention and love, then I needed to be the skinny, girly girl, the one that was the best at whatever she did. So I'd stand out in a good way, not a bad way or an embarrassing way, right? I could stand out in a good way. And it would be hard for people to find something wrong with someone who was that successful and pretty, right? That's what I told myself at 10. By 14, I had an eating disorder, and it was a release for me. It was a break from the perfection. It's what whatever the hell perfection was, or whatever I was telling myself I needed to be. But I was always surrounded by friends and family. But I remember feeling lonely and not fitting in. I always had a to-do list and a schedule, but I just always felt so lost, right? So at 16, I'm not going to go through every year, just kind of giving you some pivotal points in my life. At 16, I know I was the best actress there ever was. I mean, I could walk into a room, I could smile, I could, be boisterous and contagious, and people wanted to be around me. I was an honor roll stool as a student. I was in the drama club. I was in softball. I was in volleyball. I was too aggressive for basketball. That didn't work out too much. Kept getting fouls, so I got away from that and got into wrestling. I hold a provincial medal in a silver medal in wrestling. And so I was doing all these things, and I don't ever remember being alone. I remember being busy. I found time to volunteer. And I think that's it. When I journal and I thought back, the thought of having downtime scared the crap out of me. And so I have this theory now that I didn't know how to sit with my own thoughts and didn't know how to be alone. And I didn't want to give that feeling of being different and thinking about why do I feel so broken and why do I feel so alone. I didn't want to give that a chance to surface again. So what happened is I just continued on, being labeled ambitious, overachiever. I was a type A personality. She was an athlete. Denielle is just so good at everything she does. I was even voted most likely to succeed by my peers in grade 12, right? Great. I was accepted, and I accepted those titles because what that meant was that I was achieving something, that I was worthy of something. Thank God I wasn't that chubby 10-year-old little girl anymore, right? Who didn't deserve the pretty clothes. Thank God I now had attention from boys. I mean, that had to mean I was pretty, right? It had to mean I was worth something because now I was getting attention. Thank God my childhood hairdresser told me that little pretty girls shouldn't have short hair, right? 18, I went to university. I was really struggling academically because, that smile didn't get you, a wink and a nod, didn't give you a little extra point or whatever. It was really hard academically, but I say academically because there was something that was easier about living in town because no one knew you, right? So I came from a small town. I moved into the big city, for those of you not familiar with Newfoundland. But it was during my university years that I could settle down with a version of myself that I could live with, right? I still had to try to find some cookie cutter sample for success. And I really wanted to fit into that. But, I just began doing things that made me happy. Instead of trying to just serve everybody else, I started doing things that made me happy. And one of the things I absolutely loved and didn't do a whole lot of when I was younger was sing. I was like a closet singer. That's what I say I was. So what I did was I found at the university, there was a musical that people were auditioning for. And so I auditioned and I got the role. And it wasn't the role that was pivotal for me. It was the beautiful culture of people that I met. There were these free spirits who hugged and kissed everybody, and they were so fun to be around, and everybody looked different, right? Everybody had their own personality. And I just remember loving that I had been accepted into their musical pack and I was going to find my way. And it was during this time that I recognized an attraction for a woman for the first time. And I can tell you, when that happens, something in your brain just goes, uh-oh, that's embarrassing. Do not tell anybody that, and then I just got so confused that I just shoved it away and almost avoided it. And these are things that surfaced up over the past couple of years as I really worked on myself. Over the next few years from that, I would have a couple of more encounters, 3 more encounters with women that were, that should have kind of been a sign, but because I had wired in my brain somewhere that, hey, this is just Katy Perry's, I kissed a girl and I liked it, and this happens to everybody, I dismissed it and just thought, I'm just, living life and being young, right? And so I just stuck with my game plan, just stick with, look for a solid man, get married, have your kids, have a good job, and just, wait for retirement. That was the game plan. And that's how I was expected to go forward. That was the safest way to go forward, right? So let's go forward. Let's go forward to the point where I'm 38. It's in 2017, and I am married to a wonderful, ambitious man. I have a dog. I've got 2 wonderful kids. I'm living in a $500,000 home on an acre of land. I work from home, so I'm a very present mom. I'm a lead singer of one of the top, the province's top cover bands, and I work in radio. I did it. I did it. I'm successful. I achieved everything that I wanted. I got the great job. I've got the husband, and I've got the two wonderful kids, a boy and a girl, and I've got this dog. Because, whatever, a boy and a girl, like, why do people, oh my God, now you have both. You have children. That's the gift. It doesn't matter what they are, right? I had this beautiful home, and you know what was happening? I was riddled with anxiety. I was so strained and anxious and angry. My children were not getting the best version of me. They were getting what was left over after I dealt with, everything else. My marriage was strained. I was ready to crack. I was too busy for friends. Like, this is where chasing that dream got me. Why am I so depressed? I struggled for 3 whole years. I struggled of some of my darkest days. And you know what? I went to my doctor, and the doctor told me that I was premenopausal at 40 or 38. My lack of sex drive, my agitation and all that was part of my life now. If it got worse, there was medications that we could consider. Yeah, I was a broken mess. I mean, it wasn't bad enough now that I was agitated and all that. Now my body was giving up on me. I was truly broken now, right? Broken here and broken physically. It's the end of my life at 38. I started referring to myself as broken. Not ambitious, not athletic, not a perfectionist, so much that I worked my whole life to achieve. I was now broken. And believe it or not, and again, this is why I'm being vulnerable and I'm sharing stuff that I wouldn't normally share. This is how I got out of sex. It wasn't like, no, not tonight, honey, I got a headache. It was, you know what, hon, I'm just broke. I'm broken. I don't know why. I'm sorry. So I got out of sex. January of 2020, I decided to take a business trip with a bunch of girls. It was a business trip, but it was also like a pleasure trip to go to LA and just experience California. I had never been, always wanted to be. And well, that's a lie. I had been there very briefly for like a day in Los Angeles, and then I went on to San Francisco. It was a really cool trip, but that's not the point of this tonight. But I went there, and I had no idea, because all of us had never been together as a group. And so I was kind of nervous, like, you had 7 women in a room and like, what could happen? It was actually beautiful. It was such a spiritual experience where, over bottles of wine in the nighttime, we would just share our pain, share our hopes, share these big visions of what we wanted to do. We even went up to the hill, the Hollywood sign, and we meditated, and we just like, each of us silently meditated in front of the Hollywood sign and just told the universe what we wanted. It was just such a beautiful, and I still get goosebumps when I think about it. It was just beautiful. And so I came back from California, back to Newfoundland, and I was on this renewed mission to unbreak myself. That was my theme. I was going to unbreak myself. Unbreak myself. What does that even mean, right? I committed myself to doing more of the things that I absolutely loved. I told the universe, like, I am ready for this. I am ready. And I did. I told the universe, I am ready. So in February the 20, I don't know the exact date, but it was in 2020. I was accepted into this group. It was an all-female country show. We were going to tour the island, and I was pumped. I was starting off the new year with music and country music, because that's my jam. March, so a couple of weeks later, my life completely changed. I walked into a rehearsal, and something inside me that day was just like, you need to pay attention. So I was like, am I going to get in an accident? Something going to happen? Like, what is going to happen? And then there was something that happened. I saw her. I saw Renee. I saw her. She saw me, and something inside of me just shifted. And it's a shift that I can't put into words other than say it was like a chemical reaction. It was one of these things that you cannot reverse, that it felt so different, but it wasn't in a bad way. This is the thing. It wasn't in a bad way. It was different in a familiar way. And by familiar, I mean, it was that carefree, life-loving 10-year-old again, the one that I was before she was told that she had to lose weight in order to get something. It was that child that knew she could have something just because she wanted it, and she could go after it because, that was her birthright. That is what I felt when I looked at Renee. And you can imagine that didn't make any sense. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. For the 10 months that followed, they were very scary. I felt like all my life I had, lived, and all of the life that I had experienced had really just put this jawbreaker of a shell around me. And now I had to get through every freaking layer, every color, just rip it apart to get into the core of who I was, because I no longer knew who I was, but I knew she was in there. Quarantine was difficult because, as you know, the whole world kind of shut down, and it did shut down, and it was a gift for me. And I can say that now. At the time, I thought it was a curse, but it was actually a gift because it made me sit alone. I told you I didn't like sitting alone before because I didn't want the hurt to come back. I didn't know what my own thoughts were. I didn't know who I was. What was that voice inside me? And quarantine made me sit alone many nights with my thoughts. And I have to say, that is the most relieving feeling in the world when you realize, you know what, I'm not broken. I'm not broken. The reason I felt so lost was because somewhere in that little 10-year-old's mind, I decided what success was supposed to look like. And I started chasing that dream, and I started looking forward and forward and forward. And I was trying to find my truth, but I was in pursuit of something that was never meant for me. So I want you to think about that. If something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. You know, what are you chasing or trying to make work? What are you trying to make work that maybe that's not meant for you? Maybe that had to happen to get you to the next level, right? Maybe that's where the agitation is. I'm trying to hopefully give you this example of, this storyline for me to hopefully find places for you to insert yourself and make yourself question, right? So guys, I had to face the hard. I had to face the absolute hardest thing of my life. I had to separate from my husband. And I can tell you the hardest thing I've had to do to date was to tell the man that I had loved wholeheartedly for 12 years that I was gay. Can you imagine what that might feel like? Can you imagine what that might look like? I will never forget what that looks like. I will never forget what that feels like, because I had to face a huge fear. Watching him break down in front of me absolutely killed me, because all I ever wanted to do was to make him happy. I wanted to make him proud. I wanted to make him feel loved. And now I was telling him not that I was just going to leave him, but that it was never going to work because I was gay. I had been living my whole life for everybody at the expense of my own happiness. No one was getting the real me. Everybody always felt something was wrong. There was nothing wrong. I was just in the wrong lane, right? I felt nothing familiar about all of my surroundings. As everything, my whole life became this landslide of emotions and like anger, and I felt nothing familiar, but yet there was something inside me that felt free. It's like that final layer of that jawbreaker had just broken away, and all of a sudden it was like, ooh, there was a beam of light coming out of me, right? I almost got to insert here for comic relief, if nothing else, that 2 days after I had this very dark, worst day of my life telling my husband I was gay, the whole world shut down due to the COVID pandemic, the whole world. And everybody start putting rainbows in their windows, right? In the chaos of every day, there was this attempt by humans globally to come together and unite. And it brought me so much comfort that I was like, are they doing this for me? Is this an encouragement for me to keep going? I felt so connected to some source of energy. I can't explain it. I just felt protected. I knew I was guided. I just started trusting something beyond me because I was in the unknown, right? I had no idea what was happening. So into the unknown I went. I really wasn't even sure of what was going on. Was I having a midlife crisis? What is happening? But that energy that I felt with me, I knew I just had to trust it. And I want to bring up the journaling again, because this was a huge piece for me. So those of you that don't journal, I want to encourage you to just start, and you can reach out to me and ask me, how do I start? Because that's the hardest. When you put, I'm a writer. When I put that pencil to paper, I want it to be perfect. And what I realized was that if I write down, Jesus, today is shitty, then I got something out of me versus have that cycling in my head. So journaling really helped me through my shift. It helped me realize that I was not broken. I wasn't destroyed. I was simply in a rebuilding phase. I was unlearning all of the crap, all the false beliefs, like all of these things that I had put in there. I was unlearning them. I wasn't unbreaking myself. I was unlearning what was never, ever, ever meant to be my beliefs in the first place. I realized that I was given an opportunity to live my life on my terms. The book Untamed helped me to realize that. I realized that I could consciously reprogram the way I thought about things, and it could be on my terms without worrying about anyone else. Now, yes, I have children and all that, but I realized that if I am not showing up as me, my kids are learning to be unauthentic, and I don't want that. I don't want my kids to go through what I went through. I had to show up as me. So I let the shift start, and I started over. from that point going on. That's where I felt really empowered and really fortunate. And when you realize that the start again isn't a curse, when the start again is actually a blessing, it's a privilege. I'm wiser now than I was. My decisions are much more confidently made these days. They're not indirectly influenced. And I'll say that again. My decisions are confidently made now. They are not indirectly influenced by anyone else. I go into my life and I make decisions about my life. As I became more aware of, this presence of this energy that was with me and the plan that was happening, I realized that all of this crap that was happening to my life, and I was like, why me? Why is this happening? Why? The thing I had been asking for the most my whole life, even like at that young 14-year-old, the 16-year-old, the 18-year-old, I just wanted to be happy. But how could I be happy? I wasn't in alignment with who I was meant to be. I didn't know I was gay. How was I supposed to know? I had built this image in my head that I needed to get married to a man and have children and right? How was I supposed to know? Right? How was I supposed to know? I had all of this guilt for not being present in my life the way I thought I should be. It was guilt, like not being the best mom, not being the best wife. I mean, I wasn't showing up for him the way a wife really should be, right? I created this whole jealousy thing that I couldn't even explain. It was like a coping strategy. So when, a nice, kind, beautiful woman came around, I immediately went into this jealous, anger, judgment, critical mode. I can tell you, I was just as confused as Matt. It would come out of nowhere. But that's how my brain had learned to just deal with how I felt. So when I think back on Denielle before this shift happened, I almost think of her as this beautifully little wrapped gift with this beautiful wrapping paper. And on the outside, it looks so beautiful. And then you open up and you take the wrapping paper away, you found nothing inside. That's sad, guys. We're here for a reason. We are here to just make this world a better place. We're here to help people evolve. And I felt empty on the inside, but the outside looked nice. That's not important. What's on the inside is what matters the most. We hear it all the time, right? Yes, we don't do the activities that are needed to do that, right? Such a freaking disappointment. That's the best way I can describe the Denielle before the shift, which is why I am very thankful for my shift. Now, don't get me wrong. Before all this awareness and transition went down, I wasn't going around like Eeyore. I was happy. I was happy in the best way I knew how to be, but I wasn't fully happy. My kids were my life, so I poured everything I had into my kids. I had my work, which gave me something that I could call my own. So when I wasn't with my kids, when they were in school or at sleeping, then I was working my business. I avoided the wife duties, right? I felt jealous at some points for Matt having this freedom. I called it freedom. It wasn't actually freedom. He was tied and chained to a job that he had been building to give us this life that we were I want to call it a plentiful, materialistic life. He was chained to that. So he was out working all day. It's not like he was out of the house and I wanted to be out of the house. So I had developed this ridiculous, jealousy. So I want to bring you back to the present, right? Because that's just, you see the mess, you see the shit show, right? That was on behind the scenes. But I want to come back to the present because this podcast is one that I dreaded, right? I put it off. This exact one I put off for a month. This has been sitting in my kitchen in a bag for a while, this whole shirt. I bought the equipment for a podcast 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I bought the equipment. But I dreaded it because I was so afraid of stepping on top of my story. It required me to actually stand on top of my story. It required me to be completely authentic. It required me to be vulnerable, which meant I had to be prepared for the reactions that may come at me. I had to be prepared to face the negativity that we know is still out there in the world. I had to be ready for that. All the pretty wrapping paper was going to be gone and I was going to be left with this. So what did this look like, right? What was this? And I had to be ready. I was terrified. For those of you who follow me, I was terrified that you would think I was a hypocrite, that, all this talk of the law of attraction and manifestation and all this talk that I had spent years doing on Facebook Lives, I was afraid that you would go, well, geez, she was acting like she was happy, but she actually wasn't. Because I was happy in the best way I knew how. That doesn't mean I was the happiest I could be, right? I just wanted to make sure that I could stand on top of my story no matter what the response was. I am definitely in a place now where I see that my perspective has shifted. Like, on the outside, it may look like I lost everything, right? The one thing I didn't lose is my belief in a bigger purpose. And I didn't leave my connection with me. I found that and I held on to it. I have meditated and prayed more in the past 2 years than I think I've done in my whole 42 years of living on this abundant life. I look at the loss of the life that I had as something that had to happen because I really didn't lose my life. I gained an ability to build one that I actually wanted. It was a reset. I lost my dream home. We had to sell it, but I'm going to get one back. I got separated from my husband, so I lost a husband. But guys, guess what? I got a friend back. Yes, me and my ex get along. We co-parent in a very healthy manner, and we actually live 4 houses apart. It wasn't always that way. There was a lot of hard we had to get through, and it was so painful. But we knew at the end of the day, there was love for the kids. The kids deserved love, and we had to put ourselves aside. That's a whole process. My kids gained a mother that was fun and adventurous, and she's silly, and they got her back. So I didn't lose the things that were important to me. In fact, I found the things that were important to me, which was me. I found me. I gained the ability to build a life on my terms instead of meeting the expectations other people had set for me. I gained a beautiful partner in Renee. Some of you have met her, you know her. She shows up online with me. She is everything that I need and that I want. She came into my life when I needed her the most. She supports me. I feel complete when I'm with her. And the thing is, she was patient the whole time, the whole process. When I doubted everything I was going through, wondered if it was a midlife crisis, she was there patiently, just helping me get through my transition and get through my shift. Now, I really want to encourage you guys, if you haven't had your hands on a book called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life, it's amazing. Bob Proctor. I'm really learning to dissolve these existing paradigms that I've set up into my head. They were influenced by things that weren't really meant to influence me. All my low self-esteem that led to an eating disorder, years of robbing myself and my family of true happiness, was all of these thoughts I had in my head that weren't really there. So, I want to wrap it up. I want to tell you that it's time for you to step into your greatness. Right? If you don't know who Gary Vee is, you got to listen to him. He's like, grab life by the throat before it grabs you by the throat. And he has a lot of colorful language that I'm not going to use here. But I want you to step into your greatness, because no matter how terrifying it is and it seems, there are people doing it. You have no idea what the future looks like. I get that. I get that. For 42 years of my life, I couldn't understand what was wrong. And then I find out I'm gay. What? How do you find out? People are like, how did you just find out? I'm like, you just start, your brain is a powerful thing, but I want you to use it in a powerful way. Think for yourself, right? If the present right now, where you are right now, is not where you're meant to be, why don't you start right there by making a decision to face the hard? Why don't you welcome the shit show and the shift show? Welcome it. Stop being like a victim of circumstance. Like, I think the big thing, like, people play this like victim of circumstance and time. Oh, if this was different, and if only this. Circumstances are going to change. They're constantly changing, and time is constantly running out. So stop being a victim of circumstance and of time, because circumstances change and time is running out. It's all perspective. Now, when you're challenged to see what's in front of you, because some of you aren't happy, and that's the reality. Some of you aren't happy. This is why I want to connect with you. I want you to face the freaking hard. There's no coincidence. There's only intentional incidents that happen in your life. There's no such thing as a coincidence. Everything is going to happen and not happen for a reason, right? I didn't know why all of this. Why did I feel something for Renee? Why did I feel that? That needed to happen to give me the power that I have right now to own every decision that I make and to be authentically happy now to the core. Right. So I really, like I said, I want to summarize this up now. And I want to tell you that, sometimes life is going to get stirred up. From time to time, you're going to be like, when will this be over? Sometimes it's really for short bursts. Sometimes it feels like it's never going to end, but it too shall pass. You're going to decide the speed. You're going to take the time. You're going to figure out the lesson. Do I evolve? Do I slow down? Do I let it go? Because I had to let go of a lot a lot of pride. I had to let it go. Everything you need is inside you. They say that, right? It's so true. Because when you are left with nothing but yourself, you got to make some decisions. When the whole shit show begins, things are going to get really loud. And that's when you got to go quiet. You got to go quiet. You got to go within, and you really got to just trust that the guidance is there to help you get through the mess. Okay. And I'm telling you from experience, the universe always has your flipping back. Your voice, everything you need is going to be inside you. And there is a huge, beautiful plan. And it's going to be more clear the more authentic you are to you, the more that you listen to that voice within you, the more you go quiet, the stronger that's going to be, the faster things are going to come to you. And every single day, I promise you, I'm going to continue to put my best foot forward. I'm going to expect the same from you. Every day, there is this massive potential for a shift in ourselves, a shift in our perspective, in our development, a shift in our understanding, our relationships, a shift in your paradigm. At 42 years old, I am realizing that I am not broken. I'm gay. I'm a mother. I'm a business owner. I am a volunteer who has helped raise over $1 million for charity in the past couple of years. I am an absolute advocate for equality. I never, ever back down from something that I believe in. I have this vision to be a part of something that really elevates people to like a new level of consciousness so that they take responsibility. They become very aware of themselves and of the way they live. I am no longer hiding inside of my story. I'm standing on top of it in an attempt to help others. And so when you find what feels right, which is what I know I have, I found what feels right. I do not want you to let go no matter how hard it is. I do not want you to let go no matter how filled with fear you are. I need you to stay connected with yourself, stay connected with a community who loves you. As I always say to my kids, you have to face your fear and you have to do it anyway. And that's the reality. We have to face our fear to do it anyway. So what I want to do right now is thank you for sharing this time with me. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're feeling something, whether it's a job decision, a move decision, a relationship decision, a personal decision. I want you to just hold on to it, go quiet, listen to yourself, because you have everything you need within you to truly just live your most authentic and beautiful, beautiful life. And I'm going to tell you, I want you to take all that mess and lean into it and just let your own shift show begin, because it's worth it and you are worth it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.